Christ returns and speaks his truth. It is brought to you by audioenlightenment.com, copyright 2012, all rights reserved. Forward. First, I would like to explain why I have used the title of recorder in place of my real name. There was never the slightest doubt in my mind, while writing these letters, that they emanated from Christ. I have described my reasons for being so sure of this in a short biography. During the writing of the letters, I was clearly told to leave myself out of the picture, that Christ's letters must stand entirely on their own. People must decide for themselves whether the letters rang true or whether people felt they were fake. I had written down what I had received. I would try to get them out of public scrutiny, and whatever happened after that was strictly between the reader of the letters and Christ's consciousness. By dropping back into the vibrations of that time, Christ entered into those times and relayed them through my mind. There was no way to that letters could have been written in plain print or just using italics so often when a new wonderful insight was put through my mind. I wondered, how can I get this across? You will know what I mean as you read the letters. And so, to show that some powerful statement had come from Christ's mind into mine, I used italics, dark print, and capitals. People have complained that this unconventional formatting interferes with the flow of the reading. But this is just the point. These letters are not meant to be read. They are meant to be pondered, and this means you have to stop at the words in print, which hold up the flow of the words, and think about the words are trying to convey to you. You must remember at all times that when Christ tries to reach your human intelligence, he is relating truth which go beyond your own experience in the life of this world. You have to reach into the infinite dimension in order to try to understand what you are being told, and so if you spend a half an hour pondering a paragraph with weird formatting, it is a half hour well spent if gradually your mind opens up to new possibilities beyond your present thinking. As you reach up in consciousness to Christ consciousness, asking for illumination, it will surely be given you. Not necessarily at that moment, but perhaps wham, when you least expect it. The answer will come shafted into your mind, and you will know that yes, this is it. This is the true answer. Introduction. Christ said, I have come to rectify the misinterpretation placed on the teaching given when known as Jesus in Palestine 2,000 years ago. Christ also said, because people are on the threshold of a world crisis of enormous proportions, it is vital for survival that I, the Christ, should reach all who will listen. You will know little of the true process of creation in which you yourselves play a major role. It is imperative you should understand them sufficiently to enable you to embark on the implementation of a higher vision for all humanity. One evening, in response to prayer for guidance, the presence of Christ became a reality who gave me irrefutable proof of his identity. He spoke to me for an hour, sending strong waves of cosmic love through my body, and gave me a brief description of what I was to be taught and eventually achieve. A fortnight later, he led me through a transcendent experience of conscious union with God. I became a healer and instrumental in some instantaneous healings. From 1966 to 1978, at important points of my life, in response to questioning, Christ instructed me in spiritual scientific principles, now explained by Christ in his letters. In 1975, I experienced a night of visions describing events between 1983 and 1994, all of which came true. I was again told there would be work for me to do in the future. Eventually, after many and varied vicissitudes, always alleviated by my strong connection with Christ and my deepening understanding and personal experience of First Cause, I was brought to my present home. Here I have lived an increasingly solitary life in the past 20 years, sometimes in clear and close contact with Christ, and sometimes left to strengthen my faith and patience in the spiritually dry periods. In the past 4 years, I have been led through mental, emotional purification, reaching my goal of perfect inner peace and joy. Christ has put me through a gradual but very clear refining process when perfectly empty of self, malleable and receptive. The voice began its dictation, and the letters began to take shape. These letters are entirely the work of Christ. Nothing in them has been derived from other literature, although in recent years, certain writers have obviously drawn much of their own inspired insight from Christ's consciousness radiation of truth. All those who are in harmony with his consciousness are greatly blessed. I am merely the recorder, nothing more. Christ returns, speaks his truth. Letter 1. I, the Christ, take this opportunity to speak directly to you. I have come to rectify the misinterpretation placed on the teaching given when known as Jesus in Palestine 2,000 years ago. They are being put through one who during the past 40 years has been spiritually sensitive and dedicated enough to receive my words and act upon them. These letters are truth. They transcend all religious doctrines in the world. These letters will liberate you. They are for all people who are searching for meaning to existence, purpose in their life, strength to face the daily struggle to live and endure hardship, sickness, despair, and inspiration for those who aspire to greater spiritual awareness in their daily lives. You might say that these letters are a master's course for those who are ready to put foot to the path which I traveled when on earth in Palestine. You may doubt that the above words are true as you read these pages and go into the facts I am giving you concerning existence and the origin of personality. You will realize that this truth could only have come from the highest source. Those who have difficulty in understanding the letters should read them a page at a time, then put them aside and meditate. Gradually, the meaning will seep into your consciousness, for these pages are a link between your consciousness and my transcendent consciousness. Come to these letters with a mind as free of ideas and beliefs and prejudice as a very little child before it is indoctrined with human belief. Bring me your uncluttered mind, a seeking mind, and I will fill it with true treasures, the treasures of highest knowledge, which as you absorb it will lighten your daily load and lead you into green pastures of brightest light, signifying abundance, joy, rapture, and fulfillment of every need. You will come to know how it feels to be abundantly blessed with all that exists beyond your present human comprehension. These letters are sent to all people throughout the world with my compassion and love. As you read them, you will feel the love and the compassion and will come to realize that your daily struggles with existence will never intended for you. Message to all churches. I, the Christ, have come expressly to tell you the truth about the origins of the human personality. I will explain exactly why and how mankind has been given a natural inbuilt propensity for self-will and a controlling desire for self-gratification and self-defense. This is not sin, but part of the natural creative processes. There is no punishment from on high. Men, through the willful and harmful exercise of their ego power, draw to themselves their own punishment. Note well, for this reason, just as scientific school textbooks become redundant as the human mind discovers and absorbs more advanced scientific knowledge, so should the present form of Christianity, built upon spurious doctrines centered around my crucifixion, be allowed to die a natural death. Your present global crisis, including a new breakdown of international law and laying the foundation for future global terrorism, clearly indicates that no religion in the world possesses the requisite knowledge and effective leadership to initiate changes in human mental patterns which will lead directly to peace and prosperity. The true spiritual leader will be able to show their congregations how and why modern mindsets have created the calamities and horrors which have been created in consciousness and are only just beginning to make themselves fully felt in your midst as diverse forms of pestilence and earthquakes, floods, famines, wars, revolution, and other tragedies. Be assured, no evil which comes to your earth is a natural disaster. Everything inimical to your perfect welfare is bred first in your human consciousness and then given form within your global experiences. This is what I tried to tell the Jews when I walked the earth and wept when they laughed and refused to believe it. They called me a madman. Let not the churches make the same mistake. The inspiration does not necessarily come to earth in ways acceptable to themselves. They must remember that I, the Christ, was not acceptable to the Jews. The churches must keep open minds and hearts to receive whatever they intuitively feel as a higher truth than that in which they presently cling, and to abandon the old beliefs which have permitted the beast to take control of human thought. Pray sincerely with all your soul, mind, heart for true enlightenment, rather than a reiteration of old and false beliefs. Wake up and accept that these rituals and past beliefs have not fulfilled my words to mankind when I promised that greater things than I did would you do. Put into motion a new and blessed form of human endeavor and personal experience. To achieve these goals, humanity must first gain insight into what and who you are. A new and important question is already coming into people's consciousness. Who are you really, behind the facade you present to the world? What does it take to be real? It is this question of who you really are which is answered on every level of your being within these pages. And if you can accept as your own guidelines for daily living all that I understood during my 6-week desert experience, you too will eventually become whole and real, even as I became whole and real before I commenced my ministry of healing and teaching. Since there are so few people in the world who would regard themselves as whole at this present time, you must surely recognize that there is the most urgent necessity for me to intrude into your minds, to lead you into a new way of thought and feeling. Such a change in consciousness will bring you into divine harmony with reality and better living conditions and security. To be able to do this work of reconstruction within your consciousness, I must first impress on your minds, and you must accept, there was much that I taught in Palestine which men were not yet ready to receive. Significantly, it has never been publicly questioned why there is no record of my early life as a young man. What was the true reason for such an all-important mission? Equally significantly, although I spent 6 weeks in the desert after my baptism and emerged from that experience as a teacher and a healer, not one writer has ever attempted to describe what actually took place during that time other than I was tempted to the devil and was with the wild beasts, and the angels were with him. This is not the slightest hint as what happened to me in the desert, which would enable me to come back to towns and villages, proclaiming the kingdom of God is within, and to speak in the synagogues with such authority that the Jewish elders were astonished. The truth regarding my human state was, by common consent of my disciples, suppressed to give greater credence to my supposed divinity and ministry. According to the Gospels, it was said of me that I was the only Son of God. Why then did I frequently refer to myself as the Son of Man? I specifically made these statements to counteract the prevalent belief in my divinity and to impress on people's mind that I was of the same physical origin as themselves. I intended them to understand that what I could do, they also could do if they only had my knowledge and followed my instructions for right thinking and right action. So many myths have arisen around my earthly person and my spiritual consciousness that it is time to be rid of them as completely as possible, since they are preventing people from evolving spiritually. You who have been indoctrined with religious teaching must try to understand that when describing my life, my disciple gospelers related only what they personally remembered, which fully supported their account of my supernatural activities. They also included much that had been spoken of me by others during the 30-odd years following my death. After such a lapse of time and inevitable embroidery of truth, how could they possibly write an authoritative biography of me and of what really happened, or properly explain my true spiritual perceptions which gave birth to my words and miracles? Only one person can write from this standpoint, and that is myself. Therefore, these letters will bring you my truth in a way that no spectator could possibly tell it, no matter how well they thought they understood my thinking. For this reason, over 40 years, my recorder's mind has been systematically cleansed of all orthodox teaching, and the system of communication between us has been perfected. If my truth expressed in these letters differs from much written in your New Testament, is it to be wondered at or rejected for that reason? Therefore, I am descending in consciousness briefly, as near as necessary to your plane of consciousness, to describe my life and teaching 2,000 years ago. My place in history. I must first point out that my life and persons were briefly referred to in the History of the Jews, written by Josephus for the Roman governor and presented to the Roman emperor. Josephus briefly noted that Jesus, who attempted to overthrow law and order in the government of the Romans, was punished and crucified. It has been argued that this was some other Jesus recorded by Josephus, but this is not so. I, who later became the Christ, who performed so-called miracles of healing and materialism, was the insurrectionist. But I was no rabble-rouser. I did not deliberately stir people up to defy the Romans and disrupt law and order. I was a rebel against existing Jewish traditions, and because, when I emerged from my 6-week sojourn in the desert, I saw a better way to think and to live, and I tried to pass on my knowledge to my fellow Jews with little success. It is important you should understand that the pressure of public opinion weighed with my followers. Whilst they truly believed I had brought a soul-saving message to the Jews and was the Messiah, the Son of God, they were also of the world, trying to relate to the world as best they could. Therefore, although they knew my reactive feelings towards the Jewish belief, they were not happy to dispense with the Old Testament altogether. since it supported and kept the Jews together throughout their history. In the interest of preserving what they thought to be valuable in the old dispensation, they suppressed any description of the person I was. My disciples and Paul built their own edifice of sacred belief on what they wanted to preserve from my life and teaching. They only taught and consolidated what they deemed to be valuable to people, Jews and Gentiles alike, at that time and in the future. Consequently, they distilled what they could use, and they let go most of what I termed the secrets of the kingdom of God, for they never understood them, nor found them desirable in the creation of the new perception of the divine, the Father. To preserve the Jewish belief in salvation from punishment for sin by means of sacrifice in the temple, the person of Jesus was adapted as a supreme sacrifice who had paid for men's sins by my crucifixion. This belief served many purposes at the time. It gave my death on the cross a